So, Diya, you made it on to an episode of the Unbuttoned podcast. Of all your
Mhm.
life achievements so far, how would you rank this one?
I think if I have to say this really realistically, this would be 100 out of 10. It's the most honorable experience and achievement of my life, and no achievement will ever top it. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
All right, so it's pretty high up there. So, welcome back to the Unbuttoned podcast. Today I talked to my friend Diya. She's a freshman at UPenn, and she tells us about why she chose UPenn, some of the clubs she's been a part of, and the value of pursuing a liberal arts degree in the world of AI. So stick around till the end. Let's get started. Who is Diya? Can you enlighten our audience with like your year, major, and maybe like one fun fact about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, my name is Diya, since nobody knew that yet. And I'm a freshman in the college, and I'm studying cognitive science with minors in consumer psych and journalistic writing. And I'm from Mumbai, which is pretty far away. And yeah, and a fun fact about me is that I once went viral on Spanish TikTok.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to get into that and unpack it a bit more. But you're a freshman. Wow, so like would you say like Penn has like broken you yet and introduced a feeling of existential dread that made you question all the decisions in your life? Or would you say you're having a pretty good time?
I would say that it's given me existential dread to the point where I'm having a good time.
Great
Yeah.
answer. That's the way to thrive at Penn. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty clear that you are like thriving here at Penn in like just 2 semesters. I was looking up some of the clubs you've been involved in and some of the papers you've written for the DP. Pretty awesome. So how many clubs like have you been involved in like since starting at Penn? And what would you say is like the most interesting club you've been a part of or most fun club?
Yeah, definitely. I've been in a bunch since I joined. I think the main ones that I narrowed it down to that I'm still a part of now is, of course, the DP. I was promoted recently to senior columnist. So it's really fun because it's a very flexible job. So you kind of just, every time I go about my day, I just think of an idea and then I put it down on this one long list that I call like opinion ideas, like my name. And then I just put everything down. So that's really fun. I'm also the vice president of engagement on the Wharton Neuroscience Board, which is really fun because we're trying to like find a way to intersect brain science and business. And I'm also in Muse, which is the marketing club on campus, and we consult for really cool fashion companies, which is really exciting.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I haven't even heard of the marketing one. What's it called? Muse?
Yeah, it's marketing undergraduate student establishment. And
Nice.
it's a competitive process to get in, but once you do, I feel like I'm learning so many good skills for the future.
Yeah. I mean, the clubs at Penn are so competitive to get in, and like for anyone
Way
watching, like
competitive.
yeah, who doesn't know, like what's that like? Isn't there this like there's this like one like super hard like nightclub to get into in Berlin? It's like notorious. There's like memes about it. Oh, it's called wait, let me see if I remember. Yeah, Berghain. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you?
I I am below legal age, so I do not endorse such activities.
All right, but
Neither
like
am I aware of any of them.
there's this club called Berghain that's like insane. Like nobody gets in. Like even like celebrities will go there and like the bouncers will kick you out. Like that's literally what it's like to get into a club at Penn. Like they're so strict and there's like multiple rounds of interviews. And like I remember I when I was a freshman, I applied to a tea drinking club and they had applications to get in. And
No
I
way.
I literally got rejected from that. Like I feel like I know how to drink tea. But yeah, it's crazy. So like being involved in that many is awesome.
What's on the application?
What was on the application? They were asking me like first they wanted me to write an essay. Like I guess it was like kind of serious because the tea was like related to like different like cultures and stuff. So we also like did research, I guess, into the backgrounds from like where it originated from. So we had to like write like an essay
Uh-huh.
about like the influence of like tea in our culture or something. And I know like that's definitely big like in my like in India like chai like tea and all the spices. Probably could have like written a really good essay, but like I did not put in enough effort into it.
Yeah, you just have to be a bit sappy. But there's like a bunch of consulting clubs on campus where they will literally give you a Bain style interview case as soon as you go in. And that's so crazy to me. Like, where has everyone been studying this? Like, was this like syllabus at both that I was just not handed? It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, it's like super intense. Um, yeah, so you said you've been at the DP and you've been enjoying that. So what's like your role at the DP and like what was kind of also the process to get involved with that?
It's pretty standard to apply. You kind of write a sample op-ed to get in, and the team will evaluate it. And I kind of went in. My first ever piece that I published was my application piece, which was called Paris or Penn, the Love Incubator. And it was about my generational family love legacy at Penn. And they really liked it. So once I got in, I've just been writing weekly pieces, and it's been really fun because my second ever piece that I wrote was pretty bold. It was the College of Arts and Sciences Penn's biggest branding fail. And it was all the ways in which I think the name is so bad. Like it's so lackluster and it affects our visibility and our investment. And then one morning I get a message and a girl's reached out to me and said, "Hey, I just met Dean Struck today and he said he really loved your piece and he wants to meet you tomorrow." So I think it's really cool because you get to interact with so many people and so many people kind of listen to you voice out your opinions. So I really recommend it. Yeah.
That's interesting that you went up against Penn because I was just reading this article recently. Actually, do you mind if I bring it up on the screen, a little screen share of like
Right.
the
Yeah.
just the DP article? All right, let me do that just so everyone can see which one I'm talking about. All right, so I read this article recently, and I guess like, I can see you're like pretty buttering up Penn, like pretty much glazing them here. So like, what happened here? Like, to be honest, like, did Penn pay you to write this? Was it like they get you like exempt from all DRL classes, or like they gave you extra dining dollars, or was this just because you like genuinely love Penn, which is fine too,
Okay.
because I mean I genuinely love Penn.
I've never taken a class in DIL, so probably this was a thank you note to Ben about that. But in general, I love Ben. Like I've loved Ben from day one when I've come here, and I write these critical pieces of it just because I wanted to improve genuinely. Like I come from a good space, and a lot of juniors reach out to me and they ask me from back in India because it is very competitive. Is it worth it? It's an Ivy League and it's very toxic. But the truth is, there's no other place like Penn. I mean, think about it. Even within the Ivies, try to find a school that it's near a city. It actually has a campus, four different schools. You can take classes in so many different spaces, and yeah, like there is no other school quite like it. So yeah, I'll happily glaze Penn any day.
No, I definitely agree because like there's so many other like and not even just like Ivies, but like other like schools that have like that like strong campus feel, but then they'll just be like out and like away from the city. And at Penn, you get like a mix of like the urban environment, and then also like we have Locust Walk, which is like so unique, I think. Yeah, it really makes it stand out. You're talking about you mentioned earlier. I'm just curious about this that like your family had like a generational love story at Penn. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Just want to hear about that.
Yeah, so I have five uncles and aunts from both sides of my family, and they all surprisingly met each other at Penn, like in freshman, sophomore years, and they've been together ever since. And this is really random because there's like three on my dad's side and two on my mom's side. So I just grew up hearing about it, and my parents didn't meet at Penn, but even so, every time I go for like a family function, they always ask me, "Have you met the one?" And I don't know how to tell them that there's no prospects and it's very different now than it used to be.
Yeah, so actually that's kind of interesting. It's like, would you say Penn now is like a good place to like meet like your life partner, or would you say like I don't know, like the level of competition now has made it where like people are just either focused on other things or like it's just like way too competitive, and then also like I guess now with like online apps like Hinge and everything like that, like do people even like look for, I mean, just your opinion, but do you think people even look for like their person like at their university, or it's now that like you literally have access to everyone around you with these apps? Like, do you think that's changed the landscape?
Yeah, I think so. I feel that's what I kind of wrote about in the piece, that especially at Penn, because we are so used to quantifying everything in our lives, like we can quantify a GPA, we can quantify what it means to have a good internship. You can't quantify what it means to just like be in a good relationship or quantify one person. So everyone's engaged in quantity over quality. And I think it just affects indirectly the way we like approach everything. And I'm not the biggest proponent of it.
Proponent of it? What do you mean by proponent of it?
Like, I don't think that it's a good thing. I think we need to change that.
Got it. Um, Actually, so moving on to another article that I read of yours that I thought was pretty interesting. Um, let me share it again so people can see.
I'm scared.
It's all good. This. I mean, this is all stuff you've like posted, so like it probably can't be anything too scandalous. We'll have to get into like what your actual scandalous opinions are later, but right now we'll stick to this. So I really like this article, especially because like I mean we're both in the same major, like being in the liberal arts school. Like I'm always looking for reasons to justify to my engineering friends and Wharton friends like why I made the right decision and why I'm probably not going to get AI'd out as soon as like I graduate college. So, but actually,
Yeah.
rather than me like introduce, like, why don't you give like a little summary? And for everyone watching, like, yeah, you should. I definitely recommend you go and check out like all of Dia's articles on the DP. They're really well written and like fun to read. But yeah, give us a little like summary.
Thanks for the glaze, Eva. I appreciate it. Um, this article was basically it came about when my friend and I went for a networking event, and that's how I kind of started it. And we were like, let's take a sip of water every time we hear finance or computer science. And it was over because I think there are so many standard majors on this campus because everyone thinks, oh, this is the one true path to financial success and becoming a billionaire. But with changing times and with AI, especially as COGS majors, like we can see that there's there's going to be so much change within like fields that it's going to be more important to have skills and actual skill-based work than procedural and technical kind of expertise. And that's why I really like COGS because, and for people who don't know exactly what it is, it merges philosophy, neuroscience, psychology, computer science, math. I feel like I'm forgetting one, but it's so interdisciplinary and linguistics that you're kind of learning how to think and then you can apply that anywhere else. And I think that's what people need to be recognizing right now.
Yeah, no, I think COGS at Penn is awesome. I'm also gonna just show that real quick for anyone who's like interested in learning more or like even the process of wanting to apply to Penn. Um, yeah, no, it's like it's an awesome major because I think just in general, Penn's known for being like a really good interdisciplinary school. Like they're very strong in like a wide breadth of art subjects. And then the difficulty is like when you choose one major, you're kind of like pigeonholed into that, and you like spend a lot of time learning about that major. But like whereas in COGS, like you learn this like wide breadth, and like Penn's actually one of like the first schools to like kind of emphasize the importance of that. Like we've had like some of the biggest names like Noam Chomsky, like a linguist and also comp sci guy, and then um we've had other big like philosophy names at Penn and psychology names as well. Like this whole like new movement of positive psychology. Um, I don't know if that's something you're interested in, but like some
Yeah,
yeah, the
started
positive
at Penn.
what'd you say?
It started at Penn with
Yeah,
Martin's.
no, like it started at Penn, and we have like people like Angela Duckworth with like grit. So all that kind of comes into cognitive science, and like Penn is like the home of it. So it's really been awesome to be a part of that. And yeah, I totally agree with that because like the value of knowing how to learn things and just like having like a wide breadth of skills is so useful because like yeah, anything like you were saying, like procedural or like I guess by procedural, do you mean like a specific skill set? Like for example, like if you're coding like a specific like programming language or something like that? Or like how would you define procedural?
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. I'm not the most technical person yet, but I think it essentially just means knowing how to code a specific thing or knowing Excel. I think that it just lands you into redundancy at some point because now what you need is thinking beyond that and thinking like, what can AI not do? And then focusing on that. And I think something that it can't do is that at the end of the day, it's taking what many people have done over the course of time and putting it all into a system. But it can't generate a new Shakespeare. It can't generate a new like form of cinema. At the end of the day, that's going to be what's most needed by humans because those are human skills and born out of like our emotions. And until it can't capture that, like we're studying in our philosophy class right now together, um, I I just don't feel it'll be that important or
Yeah.
necessary.
So and not that I know the answer to this too, but I guess something I've been thinking about is like and maybe we're not at that point yet, but as like AI gets like if we get closer and closer to like an artificial general intelligence, how is that really different from like humans? So like when you think of like, all right, a human's able to generate Shakespeare, like output Shakespeare. Like when Shakespeare came up with the ideas for his works that have like just like been so amazing that like they're still being taught in classes today. But like when he came up with that, like his plays, wasn't that based on like all the prior knowledge like he gained throughout his life? So like in a similar manner, like when you're training a like an AI network, and not there's no like right answer to this. Um, when you're giving it all this information, don't you think like it could do the same thing, like generate an output that's like very creative and novel based on the information it was given?
I was thinking about the exact same thing while writing it, and it actually stumped me for a while because it took me like a few weeks to reconcile. But the way I looked at it was that the way we process things is very different. Like there's something about the way that information is taken in our brain that we look at our emotions and the way it makes us feel. We look at certain contexts, and maybe one day, if it can manage to account for all of that, it will be able to do it. But at least for now and for the next few decades, I don't think it can. And there's until it like masters that, I still feel like we're going to need those human skills of thinking. And I'm a huge like believer in neuroplasticity. And I'm for the people who aren't COGS majors, it's the way that essentially your thoughts can change your neural circuitry and the way you think. And I practice a lot of like daily affirmations and rewiring the way I think because I think that's how it'll change the way I perceive the world. And all those kind of things end up influencing the way you write and produce things. And I don't think computers have reached that yet.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely something interesting to think about. And I would say like, yeah, I agree. Like there's some level or some component to us that maybe is difficult to, at least now and for a long time, emulate in a computer. That's where our creativity stems from. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I guess going back to like your story, right? And like why you chose Penn. Which in like definitely we've heard all the things you love about Penn, like COGS side, that being part of the DP, all the clubs. But like what made you first apply to Penn? And I know you're an international student, so obviously it's like a much bigger decision for you to like go to another country to for your higher education. So what made you like how did you like hear I guess you heard of Penn like through all the love stories in your family, but like what made you decide to go to Penn?
Yeah, I first of all heard about it through all the love stories. And then when the application time came, I was just trying to look at every school. And something that really mattered to me was speaking to people who graduated from the school and seeing the way they, not only the way they talk about the school, but the kind of person they are. So I spoke to a bunch of people from Penn, from Harvard, from Georgetown and around like, and even I got into Cambridge too. So I was trying to make the decision between the UK and the US. And I spoke to a bunch of people, and what I found was there was something about Penn people and the way that they speak. They have like this self-confidence and charisma that I couldn't find in any other person. And maybe it was luck, maybe it's random. I spoke to the wrong people, but I just felt like that's the kind of person I want to become. So by going here, there's obviously something about the school that will do that to me. And yeah, that's kind of one of the reasons why I picked Penn. Another reason was the positive psych department. I was very interested in the science of happiness, so I did a positive psych course before I came here. And I used to run a positive psych NGO back, a nonprofit back home where I would teach it to local government schools. So I just thought everything would be very full circle here.
Oh, that's awesome. So what was that? What was that NGO like? Teaching positive psychology.
It was super interesting. I kind of started it as a mental health initiative, but I was taking the positive side course at the same time. So when I would go and I would write little comic books to teach a little bit about anxiety and a little bit about depression. And I kind of would integrate like gratitude jars and the three good things, which is saying three good things that you're grateful for every single day. And I would try to include those facets in it because I guess in government schools in India are pretty underfunded, and a lot of these kids have a lot of struggles. In fact, they come to school just to get a hot meal. They there's not much drive, and I think just interacting with them one on one actually taught me a lot about positive psych, just seeing how happy they were. So I think it was a very good learning process. I hopefully when I go back after I graduate, I want to continue it.
Yeah. No, and I feel like when teaching like positive psych or if it's something you're interested in, like in order to like really grasp like what we need to be happy, you have to have like gone through the ringer and like dealt with what it's like to like not be happy and be depressed. And I think Penn does a pretty good job of like
A
instilling like
fabulous
depression and
job.
anxiety in us. So like yeah, it really
Yeah.
comes full circle. Um
Yeah, my friend, he sent me a reel the other day, like top 10 most depressed schools in the country, and Penn was first. So I responded to him like, we're always number one.
yeah.
That's
No,
for
no,
sure.
you need to throw some depression into the mix of into like the stew of everything to get people to do really cool stuff. Um, but yeah, so at Penn, right? So I remember this other article that you wrote. I didn't actually I can try and pull it. Whatever. I'll just talk about it verbally. So there's this other article that you wrote. It was something I forget the title, but it was a very catchy title about like
Penn Hunger Games?
yeah, the Hunger Games, right? Like
Mhm.
about social capital, where you go into the fact like, all right, like intelligence is like a baseline at Penn. Like you thought you were so smart and cool at Penn, then before Penn, then just come to the school and you'll be humbled immediately.
Yeah.
So yeah, how what okay, so what else can you tell us about that? And then also what would you say is like been your experience with that, like personally relating to it?
Yeah, I came to Penn and I was like, I've been at the top in my high school, but when you come here, suddenly everyone's at the top. Like everyone has a good GPA, everyone's doing well. And it's very interesting because you start noticing that everyone wants to categorize themselves in some way. So suddenly all the nerds that have come together are now looking at who's cool and who's like has a better social life, which is very ironic if you think about it. But it's just like very interesting to see, and you feel it too. I think when you come in as a freshman, you're just like, oh, I need to be seen at the right like frat parties, and I need to be seen at the right places. But you start realizing that nobody has it figured out, and everyone who looks like they've got it all together and looks like they're handling both social and academic life are really not. And at the end of the day, the the entire point of the game is to just not let it play you, which is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, do you feel like you've been successful at that?
I think so. I think when I write my articles, it's like something I'm thinking about myself. And then I come to terms with like, it's like a little bit of therapy where I reach my conclusion at the end. Um, and I do believe in what I wrote. And it's very interesting because every time I publish like pieces like this, there are a lot of people who reach out to me, even from like social organizations and stuff, who tell me like they really resonate with it. So I think it's very interesting that there are so many people in different places here at Penn who feel the same way, and nobody talks about it, but I think it's important to know it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess when you think about like the front people put on, like when you ask them like, hey, how are you doing, like what's up, versus like how they're actually feeling. um yeah, I guess like one way we could kind of experiment with that right now is like, all right, you a lot of times like in class you'll like we'll talk and you'll like ask me like, hey, you, what's up, and I'm just like, I'm fine, like that's just my go-to thing to say. But like,
Yeah.
would you say that like, I don't know. Not, and I guess like not just like me, but like would you say that when you talk to people now, like now having kind of this understanding, like, okay, people are trying to like gain as much social capital, like game this system to like have as much like clout as possible. Like, would you say that you can kind of like see underneath like a level of superficiality now? Like, has it given you, and like, I guess also like with your cognitive science skills too, like, would you say like people are like, you actually feel people being like superficial in that sense? Or do you think that there's still a lot of people who are like genuine?
I think everyone, it's nobody's fault. I think when you meet someone in a class and stuff, it's not, if you ask me like, how are you doing? I'm not going to tell you, Eva, I've been like depressed and I just left my bed for the first time today. Like you tell me TMI, like,
Yeah,
like ask for that. So I think naturally people don't want to bother other people. So they'll they'll keep it short. They'll just say they're fine. They'll just post like a LinkedIn post of an internship or an opportunity. But I think as you uncover the layers and you start being vulnerable with people, which I started doing with my friends, it's very natural that they respond in the same way. And I think cultivating like three, four like real friends, like friends, is important. And then the rest of the people can just be people who you're more or less more vague with. And that's fine. As long as you have a few core friends.
yeah, cool. So I guess what you're saying is like, yeah, even though like there is this level of like everyone's trying to like has this image to uphold, if you can open up and be vulnerable with people, you can kind of expect that to be reciprocated, right? Because I guess, yeah, I've experienced that too. So I think that that is like one good thing about like connecting with students at Penn. Like there, I think people are willing to like um yeah, get into more like what they're actually feeling. um yeah, so okay, so you've been at Penn now like for 2 semesters. What do you think you like are the main things you still want to accomplish like in the rest of your college career? Or some
That's a
highlights?
that's a very loaded question. I definitely want to do semester abroad. That's something I think it's an amazing opportunity, and everyone I speak to always talks highly about. Um, in typical Penn fashion, I want to get a really good internship. And I think some a goal that I have recently is there are so many amazing faculty on campus, and I want to make sure I maximize that. So every month I want to schedule at least one meeting with some professor teaching some obscure subject and meet them and just learn more to make sure that I'm making the most of it.
Yeah. What do you, so when people come into Penn and they think of like making the most of it, right? Like on one hand, there's like, okay, like I want to come to school and enjoy all these experiences. Like college is supposed to be the best 4 years, yay. And then on the other hand, there's people like, all right, I'm coming to Penn, I have 4 years, like let me load everything into my schedule. Like I want to graduate with like 3 degrees and like have my master's already. And like you see that, like there's people like, I don't know, it's like it was a Friday at like 9 o'clock the other time, and I just had to like pass by the library to like quickly like grab something from my friend. I go in the library and there's like all these people just locked in, and I'm like, dude, like it's college. Like these are the people that are like really like I would say like credit loading and trying to maximize. And not that there's like anything wrong with that. I mean, everyone has like their own priorities. But what's your take on that? Like, do you think like what do you think the purpose of these 4 years is at school? Like to like maximize just on like the academic level, or do you think it's also important to like balance that with other things?
You should slack on academics, But I also feel like the way I view college, it's not about the actual degree that I do. It's the person that I become after it, the same way that I was talking about like the people I spoke to. And I've made a list of traits that I want to have when I graduate and the kind of person I want to be. And that's what I'm trying to achieve. And I think that social life and especially making connections at a place like Penn is equally, if not more important than actually your academics. The kind of people you're going to meet here are just like incredible. Like what one of our friends in our class is who was on Yuva's podcast is in the Olympics, and other friends that you'll meet are doing insane startups, really cool things. And that's why I think having time to accommodate that is like another class. It's like not everyone wants to go out every Friday. Like that is also a commitment to make to yourself to actually get out of bed and do something, but you're doing it because you want to make sure you're maximizing your social life too. And
Yeah.
I don't think that's a wrong thing or a bad thing.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. All right, let's switch gears a little here. So I also saw that you're a songwriter and singer. And actually let me see if I can just share the screen real quick to show people. Let me see if this starts up. But yeah, in the meantime, so like what all right, like I think I got it right here. Oh no, but if I share this, then you can see all my embarrassing playlists. Wait, I wonder if there's a
Yeah,
way
we have to see this.
I wonder if there's a way to cover this up. Nah, okay, whatever. I'll just talk about it verbally. So you have this one song called "Come Back" with Stay Gone, and then you have another song called "Nearing 17." These are both on Spotify. Um, one of them has like almost 100,000 streams, and like, I mean, that's pretty awesome. And like, I guess as a musician, I wouldn't call myself a musician, but like as a stereotypical like brown boy with like a SoundCloud who produces, well,
SoundCloud?
I don't I don't know if you'd call me a musician or not, but like I make like beats and stuff, but like I've always just like been super into like music and like all kinds of music. And yeah, I think it's the whole process of like writing a song and then also marketing it to like get as many people to listen to it and the right kinds of people to like actually resonate with like what you've written and put out there is just like I have respect for that. So if you could like maybe go into that a little bit, what your songwriting process was, like how maybe you came up with this song and yeah, elaborate.
That sounds great. I want to hear more about your tracks too and how you come up with them. But basically I think I've just been songwriting from a young age, just pretty much self-trained. And then with these two, the Nearing 17 one is kind of cringy, like nobody go see that. It was just a song about nearing 17 and all the things I hadn't accomplished yet. And that was like my first ever song. And then my second one, I actually produced. So I spent many hours on it. And that's why I understand what you mean. It feels like such a huge accomplishment to finally put out something that's kind of been like your project for so long. So I was involved, we put over hundreds of layers into it. And it was just a song about like wanting someone to stay, but also like leave. The like it's just a typical love song. But I really enjoyed writing it, and yeah, I think it's always fun to look back on a few years later and then kind of see your path.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the song by the way on Spotify. Um I saved you guys from seeing my embarrassing clothes, but anyway, yeah, so you said we put hundreds of layers into that. Like what do you mean by that? Like who is we? Like did you work with like friends who are also producers and did you have like music theory knowledge and skills to be able to put this together?
No, I worked with one producer, and we worked in his home and literally with just his mic and computer. And he was obviously more of a pro with the Logic Pro X, but he was kind of teaching me the workarounds around it. I have no music theory knowledge whatsoever. But I think it was just nice to be involved with every single step of it because he wouldn't do anything without me being there. So it almost felt like I was there for every step along the way.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, I guess you're more into the production side of it, right? So how's
Yeah,
that
that's
been?
my interest. Um, yeah, no, I would definitely say like the production side is a lot of work too. I kind of like well, it looks like you did this too, but like I feel like all the singers are like the face of music and it's like just their name, and then the producers are like not listed or mentioned. And I feel like sometimes like people don't understand um like definitely mad respect for the singing and like everything that like you guys have to do, but because like that really brings the song together, and like oftentimes like yeah, like the singer's the face of the track because like there's all part of their brand. But I feel like yeah, as a producer, like there's definitely a lot of complexity, especially now. With like as music is like in a way it's good because it's like music's becoming more democratized because like everyone has access to like software, and like even with now with like the generative capabilities, like you can literally like put in prompts and get like components of your song just like generated at the click of a button. So like there's a lot of competition, so like to stand out it's becoming harder than ever now. And there's so much to like learning, like obviously like the software is like one thing, right? And I think a lot of people think that it's just about like oh knowing the software. um but really it's like it's just understand you should have like a good understanding of music theory and like layering everything together. So I don't know, not to like go on a rant here, but I just want to like just bring some attention to that like producers like do stuff too. um but yeah, no, I coming back to your song. How did you then get the like market it and get like the listeners?
It's crazy. I didn't do much marketing at all. All my producer did was he just said, let's just make one sponsored Instagram post. Um, and it just ended up reaching so many people. And I was very nervous to market it myself. I think marketing something, even like production, it takes a lot of courage, like to constantly keep promoting it. And it ended up doing really successfully. And I think again, it's overcoming that initial feeling and like having faith in your art and your music to feel like it'll do well. And maybe in the future, when I produce more, that will be my approach.
Yeah, do you have any other songs in the works or like ideas?
The thing is, I live in a small quad room with a roommate and with very non-soundproof walls, and my guitar's all the way back home because there's virtually no space. So no songs at the moment, but hopefully soon. Maybe when something eventful happens to me, it'll motivate me to write something, but no
Yeah.
interesting events as of now.
No, yeah, I feel like you can solve the guitar problem, and like also for the in terms of the audio, like sometimes that's just like part of the aesthetic. Like as a producer, like I'll literally like sometimes throw on like a dorm room reverb on my songs to like get into it. So I feel like that could actually play to your advantage if you do get something that just like inspires you to write a song all of a sudden.
Maybe I'll ask you to produce it. I do.
Yeah, no, that would be fun.
How does it feel to graduate now? I mean, you're asking me all these questions about starting my journey, and is there anything that you did in these 4 years that you're really proud of? And is there anything that you think you missed out on doing that you wish you'd done?
Yeah. No, I would say like yeah, definitely as a freshman I came in with like all these hopes that you do in college. Like I was like, yeah, I want to be in like the best program. I want to like socialize a lot. I want to like also we were talking about like love stories, or like I wanted to like meet the person for me, and then I wanted to like be in part of all these clubs and like internships. And I would say like up until like sophomore year, like that's kind of like all I focus on. Like what are the things I want? Like all these extrinsic things. I was like, I want this, I want that, and like I don't know. I was able to like get a lot of things. Like I met someone that like I really got along with, and we dated for some time. I met like people like really cool like friends, and then I was in like got all these internships, and I was like working like really hard. I feel like I actually started off in the engineering school, so like part of that also meant like just up long hours at night, just like coding and like staring in front of a screen. Um,
Yeah.
and then for me, like kind of what changed is I realized like, okay, like there's all these things that like I kind of went after because I just like they seem like the sexy thing to do at Penn, like being at an Ivy League. But I realized like I don't know, I'm not really, and I know many people who are, so like not going against them, but like I'm not really like built to just be like in front of a screen all day. Like I came to Penn because like I wanted to like tap into that interdisciplinary like angle of things. So I actually switched to cognitive science. And I started like instead of like credit loading like to take as many classes, like I started more like focusing on like taking like the fewer classes, like obviously within the realm of what I have to do like to graduate, but like instead of like really pushing it, I went more like I kind of had this whole like shift where I went more to like, okay, let me try and like enjoy each class and like really get into it. And then instead of like pushing myself for like internships that were like looked really good on paper and like were, I guess, very good on the pre-professional route, I was like, let me actually focus on things that like I find like that really like excite me. And like for me, that's been things like making music and like podcasting. So like for me, I think what Penn has been good at is like it because it's like such a pressure cooker, it made me realize like the things that I wasn't like fully passionate about that I just kind of did, like because they were so intense, like you couldn't just get away with that. Like that, and I feel like if it hadn't had let me gotten away with that, like I would have just graduated and probably maybe gone into a field I'm not actually super into. But because it was like so challenging and rigorous, it forced me to find something that I really resonate with. And like it's that's given me a chance, like by taking a step back a little bit, it's been giving me a chance to like do something like this, like start a podcast, because like otherwise I just like would not have the bandwidth to do that. So I guess yeah, that's kind of like overall summary. And yeah, I guess I'll come to that. I'll turn that question like back onto you now. So like, would you say like you still have this like any element of like um uncertainty like at Penn, or do you feel like you kind of because even now, like even after I've done all this, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, oh shoot, you messed up everything. You gotta change all your classes, do a whole new major, like blah blah blah. Like, do you ever feel that way, or would you say like you have like an assurance that like you're on the right path?
I think I still feel it, but I think it's really reassuring to hear you say all that stuff about picking like the meaningful classes. I just had a conversation with my mom before this podcast, and I was telling her I'm really anxious about my classes next semester. I'm taking podcasting and I'm taking intro to creative writing and I'm taking Indian philosophy. And I feel like I've not started taking like the super hard classes yet. I'm just taking fun classes. And obviously at Penn, when like my roommates are taking 1600 and all these stuff classes, I sometimes feel like, am I being like, I'm just trying to take fun classes and I'm not doing anything worthwhile. But then that really made me step back and be like, what is worthwhile? Like to me, this is worthwhile. Like I think I'm learning so much. I'm taking positive psych this semester. I'm taking an acting class, and I think it's like fundamentally changing so many things about me and the way that I approach like things. Like my acting class has given me so much more confidence, for example. Um, and I do think that that's something to appreciate. And maybe I'm doing the wrong thing and I'm saving all the super hard classes for later, but that's fine. I don't think you can mess up. And I'm glad I'm taking minors that feel very fulfilling to me. And I have no uncertainty that by following what I love doing, I'm gonna be wrong, because at the end of the day, we've all gotten into Penn because they obviously saw something in us. Like there is something about us that will make us successful. And instead of leaving behind that thing that makes you unique, sticking to it, I think can make you get equal, if not better jobs later.
Yeah. No, I think this whole like notion of like oh like fun fluff classes, like I think that doesn't like really exist. Like, okay, we all know like as Penn students, like there are some classes like you go on course review, you find the easiest classes. Like
Yeah.
we all do that to some extent, but like generally like yeah, even like coming from the engineering school, like I kind of and this is not great, but I had this like bias in the beginning, like okay, like in the engineering school, like I took classes like 160. So it's like all right, if I'm in the College of Arts and Sciences, like classes just won't be difficult. Like, oh, nothing can compare to the difficulty of that. And like I had that bias too, but then I realized like it's not like that. Like it's like a lot of times it's like you have to do lots of readings and like essay writing and like stuff that like if that doesn't really suit you either, like and that's not what you're like your heart's into, like it's not easy to do that. It's like I feel like this whole idea of like that we've introduced of like okay, like maybe like Wharton classes or like engineering classes, like those are like the worthwhile classes, while other classes are more like just like fun or like fluff or whatever. Like, yeah, I feel like that's not really a valid notion. And I've felt it like firsthand because like I've done both, and I mean saying both by the way is like flawed too because I'm like introducing this dichotomy between the two, but I feel like yeah, all classes at Penn are like pretty challenging no matter what. So yeah, I definitely think you don't have to feel like an anxiety of like if you're doing a class at Penn, like that's great. Like this anxiety of like oh versus like one being a fun versus a hard class like um is I feel like it's unfounded, but like I would recommend though like trying like some of the like classes that you would just think would be hard for you. Like some a lot of times like there'll be like a class on like and I'm like registering for class and one class catches my eye and I'm like that class would be very hard and uncomfortable for me. Sometimes like that's the one that I just like will add into my cart because um like also like learning that skill of just like going into something that seems like initially not what you would strive in like forces you to like be adaptable, which is like pretty important. um
That's a really good tip because especially at Penn, you, I feel every time I take a class, I have this feeling inside me like I want to be the best in that class. So will this be a class that I can do that? And if not, like if it's some international relations class, for example, where I'm like maybe there'll be people better than me at political stuff, I just won't take it because I'm scared. But I think that's the wrong notion to have.
no, it's good to be scared because like at the end of the day like life is scary, so if you can
Yeah.
be chill among all the scary chaos and like still find a way to be you, then like you're set. um
Yeah. Yeah,
any
but nothing can convince me to take any cis 1600 class. But yeah.
I feel like if okay, if it's not like gonna add to your major in any way, then like maybe not. But like I feel like being like six cis 1600 is like just part of like the trauma at Penn that like just bonds everyone. So like I would maybe reconsider that. Or maybe see if like I don't even know if you can. Can you take it like pass fail or I don't know, but maybe like at least look at one of your friends cis 1600 homework. Because like a lot of the problems actually are like you don't need to like no like heavy comp sci or like some of the problems are like fun logic problems. But anyway, not to like glaze says 1600 because I mean that literally put me through hell. But yeah, so anyway, what would you say this through this like whole podcast so far? What was your favorite part of being on the Unbuttoned podcast?
My favorite part was, of course, Yuva. He's so cool and inspiring, and I'm gonna leave this podcast with a renewed sense of purpose for my life.
Wow, I did all that in like 54 minutes. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess you guys have heard it. Like I don't know. It's kind of like magical. I can instill a whole new purpose in someone. So if you're interested and if you're thinking of coming on the pod, like do not hesitate to reach out on the YouTube comment or send an Insta DM. We're looking to add more and more people to the podcast who have like any if you have something like scandalous you want to say about Penn, or if you want to glaze Penn, or if you just have something interesting to say in general. It's all for the Unbuttoned podcast. Bring it on here. And Diya, yeah, thank you so much for your time. Do you have anything actually before we wrap up? Do you have anything you want to say to everyone who watched today or will watch this?
Come to Penn if you're deciding if you want to or not. Like, it's depressing, but it's fun.
Wow, okay. I think that really nailed anyone who's like wavering after hearing that, like they've made a decision.